Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Liquitex class where we'll be featuring Basics Fluid. It is a new extension to the current Liquitex range, and it complements the Basics paint that we have out there, the acrylic paint. I'm going to introduce Marla Morrison, and she's going to take us through this class today, where we're going to be doing some interesting color combinations using a wooden surface and the basics fluids. So thank you for joining us. And Marla, why don't you just jump right into the class? Thanks.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, I'm really excited to share this technique with you. It's been, they were really fun to make, and I look forward to making more. I could see covering an entire wall with these kind of little mini pinwheel wooden pieces. So the basics fluid, it made it very quick and easy to do. So I think we'll have a fun and relaxing time working together today. Definitely, as you have questions, ask away. I'd like to know what you're curious about. And if I don't see it, Jeannie will definitely let me know. So we will get going here. Thanks, Maria. If you will flip it to the surface, we'll get started. All right, real quickly, I want to, just because I love sharing information about art materials, there's a few things to point out that you might find valuable as you study more in your art practice. One site to check out on Instagram is @Liquitex Official. This is the brand of paint that we're using today, and that's a really great place to follow if you're interested in new innovations with acrylics, seeing other artists use acrylic paint, and so on. I'm a part of this group. This is, it's at TFACNA, which stands for the Fine Art Collective North America. And this is a group of, we're almost 20 across all of North America, Canada included. And we will give demos. Usually there's 2 a week, and then mini demos, usually 2 a week, on art materials. So that's a fantastic resource if you're interested in more, all things art related. And then if you'd like to follow my specific journey, you can check me out at Marla Morrison Art. And I do a lot of acrylic, I do watercolor and some resin work, and I love to see what you're up to as well. And last but not least, at the end, I hope that we can share our pieces that we make together. And then if you're so inspired, please consider tagging Make It with Michael's and Michael's classes, as well as me at Marla Morrison Art, so I can post it and share it as well. All right. So these are the fun little pieces. We've been calling them kind of pinwheel pieces. It's the basics fluid on wooden coasters. So hopefully you all have your wooden coasters handy. They come in the little packs of 4. And I know when I got my pack and opened it up, I had a good time kind of exploring, okay, which side do I want to work on? Which grain do I like better? Like, I think this is kind of neat right here. So I might choose to do my design where it showcases this little wood grain mark. So, you know, you can take a second and kind of look at your pieces and decide which side you want to paint on, if you like a more dominant wood grain effect or if you want to minimize it. Because each pack, I noticed, they're very unique. We're going to work with these colors. There's going to be some mixing involved, and I work kind of intuitively with that, but I think that that can be the best way to train your artist eye. So I don't have super specific formulas, but I think it will be very easy to follow along as we go. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and start with this particular color grouping. And some of the colors are repeated. So like this navy, I think, is in every single coaster, as well as I think the bright aqua, this kind of bright aqua green mixes too. So we'll mix different proportions. We might have to mix extra and so on, but I'm sure we will roll with it together. Okay. So looking at this coaster, I think I'm going to position it like this. And you, of course, can do your own way of creating these triangles. I'm going to do my best to kind of mimic my design here. I've just freehanded. If you feel more comfortable with a ruler, you can certainly do that. We are not going to be taping these just because I feel like if you get a little closer here, I feel like if you have a good soft synthetic brush, this is the Liquitex Basics brush, it's size 6 flat. It has a very soft filament, which works really nicely with the basics fluid paint. And it has that really, really crisp, I call it like a crispy edge. You can see how it's very, very squared off. So that kind of edge on your brush will really make it easy to do these hard edge painting lines. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to kind of mimic my drawing here. And usually when I did these, I would just pick a midpoint. I don't think I did any starting in the center. I kind of wanted to think about, all right, you know, let's put my center point off center a bit. And then I would just radiate outwards. Okay. And so, you know, there's not a specific lot of rhyme or reason to tell you other than kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like this has 7 different sections. This one has 8, so 7 to 8 sections. And then I would also, for variety, I would consider, do I want some pieces to have 3 slivers of wood showing? Maybe I want some to just have 1 and then some to have 2. So in this one, there's 1 section of wood showing. So I'm going to do that same thing here. Again, I'm starting to the center and I'm going to just do it. You know, my line is not perfectly straight. I'm just kind of drawing to the edge because I can refine that line in the actual painting process. And then I'm going to go back to the center point and draw downward. And then I'm going to go to the center and bisect the corner. That was something that I will say I did consider, is how often do I want to bisect the corner of the composition and how often do I want to leave the corner open, if that makes sense. So I think in order to really influence the angles, the more times you bisect the corner, you're getting more of the distinct triangles, and that definitely gives more of that pinwheel feel. But I think for variety's sake, I think in all of these, and in fact, like in this one, I covered 3 corners. And so it has a more rounded feel than this particular piece, which is more triangular, right? So you can certainly consider that as you're mapping out your design if you're not going to copy this exactly. That was definitely a consideration I had. Am I going to bisect the corner or am I going to leave it whole? And then this one, I just kind of came straight. And then this, again, I bisected the corner. All right, so we've got our sections now. And I think what we'll do in order to just kind of expedite, let's go ahead and we'll do the drawing for each one and then mix color and paint. So I'm going to put this one together and move it over. And then let's draw this particular pinwheel, okay? And let's see. Let me try this one. I want some of that wood grain to show. So I made my choice with my coaster. And I'm going to copy this drawing here. And you can see my midpoint is in the center, top to bottom, but it's far over to the left. So I'm going to take my midpoint. I'm going to start with this line and I'm going to draw to the edge. The way I eyeball it is I kind of look at this section here and I think, okay, if I break up this line, that's a little over a quarter of the line. So I want to come, you know, just about a little over a quarter from the bottom. Again, this is just me roughing it out. There's no right or wrong way for you to draw your radiating design, but I'm just telling you how I'm thinking it through to do my best to freehand that design. So we keep going around. I'm just looking at each shape and dividing up the side of the coaster as we go. One thing to point out, you can see I usually, just for the excitement and design, I usually don't, I'll say it and then I'll find an example I did, but I usually try to avoid breaking the line in the center. I'll usually go off either to the left or to the right. And usually when you have, if you wanted to create a very stable and more calming design, you could do everything to the center. But if you wanted to have a little bit of energy and kind of dynamic feel, it's usually a good idea to go off center when you're breaking up your shapes. If hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that doesn't, but I guess the idea is if you center everything, it's going to have a more calm and stable feel. As you off center things slightly, it can have an energy and dynamic movement, visual movement to it. So here's another wood section. And then I'm thinking about this line here. Again, every time I come to my center point and draw down, you can see your line doesn't have to be perfect because you can correct it when you're painting. And then, so I've got my yellow, and then I'm going to come over here. And I'm working on this little thin wood section. So I'm going to go to the middle and draw downward. Now, I should say this, let's do it, and I could go back to the other one, but let's take a moment. Since we have 3 wood sections here, this is something I did to help me out. I went ahead and took my pencil and lightly put a W in each section that I knew I wanted to remain wood tone. Okay, because you can, as long as you draw lightly, you can erase it quite easily. Okay, so I'll move this one over. I'll go back to the original one we drew and do the same thing. Here's my wooden section, so I'll put a W right here. Okay, and then let's do this design next. I think that's probably, I think I'm good with it breaking there. Okay, so we'll go, so again, I'm looking at the center point, and it's, you know, it's, I'd say it's an inch down from, a little over an inch down from the top and a little over from an inch from the left side. And I'm picking that on my, as my center part. And I'm not doing an exact straight up and down line. That's something else I tried to avoid. I didn't want a grid effect. I wanted a more angular effect. So I didn't do many straight perpendicular lines to the edge. That's the word I was looking for. They were usually on a slight or more extreme angle. They were never quite exactly perpendicular. Oh, that way, this time I went from the edge. So you don't always have to go from the center, but it's kind of, I typically go from the center out. Okay, looking at the edge of this triangle, again, that's about 1/3 of the way down. Okay, so I'm going to just do my slight upward angular line here to the edge. And then now I'm going to switch my hand to make it a little easier to draw this way. And here I'm guesstimating like, okay, that's a little less than an inch. So I'm going to just visually draw a little less to the inch to the side of the coaster. And again, it makes it a little easier here when I bisect the corner because I know exactly where that line should go. So I just come to the center and just lightly draw my line to the corner. Here's a really large triangle. It actually bisects the opposite or the adjacent corner. So I'm going to do that again, start in the center and just draw to the corner. And then we have one more line. That's going to yield another wooden slice. So we're going to go from the center. And this time that pink stops about 2/3 down, 2/3 of this side down. Okay. Now I'm going to mark my section with a W and a W. This is the wooden spaces I want to leave. And we can move to the last design. And all right. So sizing it up, my center point or my midpoint, I guess, because it's not really in the center, but my radiating point is about 1 inch from the bottom and a little over 1 inch from the left side. So I'll move up a little bit. Inch from the bottom, a little over, little more than 1 inch from the left side. And I think we'll draw this downward line first. Slight angle. And then since this bisects the corner, I'm going to use that to help me out and just draw from the center to the corner. And we'll just keep going around this way. This red section stops about 1/3 of the way down. A lot of thirds, right? Probably because we're using triangular shapes, it makes sense to have a lot of thirds. And then here, I would say this is less than 1/4 over. So I just kind of guesstimate that and just lightly draw my line there. This wooden shape is almost not equilateral. What is it? Oh, shoot. I don't know. Is it isosceles? I don't remember my triangle shapes where 2 lines are straight.
Wow,
or,
Marla.
What?
Wow, I said, wow, that's like a math class too. I was just telling everyone, if you're just joining, yes, it's not a math class, it's an art class, but she's doing all this freehand and we're going to paint it, no taping. So it's very forgiving project. So go easy on yourselves.
Yes. Yeah, no, this is, I did not measure at any point. This is all by all eyeballing and just kind of thinking about how I want to divide the line. That's the only amount of brain power I really put in. How do I want to, what shape am I going to create based on where I divide the sideline? This is almost center, but it's slightly downward. Again, just to keep it a little more dynamic. So go slightly downward. I think we got all the sections. So I'm going to mark W for wood here, W for wood down there. And if you need a minute to keep drawing, that is fine because I'm going to just take a second to get the paints out, and I'll talk about it briefly if you need a second to catch up. I will move these over here. And then I've got my palette paper handy. The Basics fluid, as the name suggests, it's a very, very fluid acrylic paint. And now I'm going to interrupt myself. I'm going to start with the blue first. So I'll pull that one first. Very fluid paint. It makes it really nice for a project like this where you don't want to have a lot of brush strokes evident. So that's a reason why we're using this series beyond any others that Liquitex makes, because it works really well on all sorts of surfaces. And in this case, wood it's a really lovely feel on the wood. But as I shake it, you can hear that, right? It just tells you how fluid it is. And it is important to give it a little bit of a gentle shake before you begin painting. You don't want to go crazy and just, shake it like a martini or something, just a few gentle shakes and just get that kind of ready to go. If it's a brand new bottle, when you open it, there's going to be like a foil kind of, I call it a leaflet, but that's not right, foil covering on the top. Just remove that and then put your lid back on. They're flip top caps, and they are I think transparent to translucent bottles, so you can see the color through it. Okay, this color we're starting with is primary blue, and as the name suggests, that primary blue is good for mixing greens, and it's good for mixing violets as well. But I'm going to go ahead and squeeze probably about a quarter size amount. This paint makes it easy to kind of show proportions because it levels out into different, I can reference coin sizes pretty easily with this paint. And we'll probably need to mix more, but just in the interest of just getting it going here, I'm going to just start with that amount. And in order to get, which one did I want to do first? I'll probably mix it up now, but we can, we'll go back to doing this one first. In order to get this navy color, a really easy way to make navy is to take like a primary blue and add some Mars black. So that's what we're going to do. You don't need a lot of it. And so what I will do is I'm going to just put some of the Mars black off to the side. And in order to not get it too dark, I'm just going to take my palette knife and dip it into the Mars black. And so that's just a very razor, it's kind of a razor thin amount of black. It's a lot easier to add more color than to try and remove color, right? Or you have to add more blue to get it the color you want. So I usually find it's better if you're adding a darker value color to a lighter value color. And when you compare these two, the blue is actually lighter value than the black. Add the darker value color first, slowly, because you can always add more. Okay. So real quick, mass tone is the color right out of the bottle. Undertone is the color in a thin layer. And why is that important? Well, when you're working, when you have a dark color like this mix, it's really hard to tell exactly what it's going to look like on a surface because it's so rich and dark. When you're mixing, it's often helpful to scrape back to the white of the surface, or if sometimes people use like a gray surface, to scrape back to see that undertone. And that's where you can see, okay, how is this, what is this going to look like? Have I gotten it navy enough, or do I need to make it a little darker in this case? So as I scrape back and see that undertone, I feel like I need just a tiny bit more black to get it deep and rich, like the one I have here. So I don't even need to clean my palette knife. I'm just going to dip it, another little kind of tiny dab in the black, and add it. Now this is your piece. You can, if you like the primary blue as it was, you can certainly just do that, or whatever colors you want to use. But again, I'm kind of showing how my thought process for mixing these specific colors. And that's what's nice too. The Basics fluid, they follow all traditional color mixing rules, and they work nicely, and they do really create really rich mixes. And so it's been a really nice range to play with. All right, so let's take our brush. Since we have this mixed, I think what we'll do is we'll kind of just do assembly line, if that works for you. I'm kind of just thinking this through now, but I think that that's a good way for us to make progress on each coaster since we have it drawn out. We've got our navy blue mixed. I've got my flat crispy edge brush, and I see, okay, I've got my navy here. This is the upper left triangle. So this is where you're going to want to really feel free to just move the coaster however you need to help you paint in your shape. Sometimes I'll start at the edge, sometimes I'll start at the center, but I'm really using the brush to help guide my line. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to very carefully dab my line, and you can see how, I'll make it even closer. You can see that that crispy brush gives me a very, very crispy painted edge. Okay. Now the basics fluid, because it is fluid, it will, like when you first paint it, if there's not a lot of paint on your brush, it soaks in very quickly to the wood. So just make sure you have a good amount of paint on your brush so it can, some of that paint can soak into the wood, and that's what helps it adhere really nicely. But I'm going to go ahead and just keep adding some color, and I can keep refining my edge. Okay, so that might look like, okay, I'm adding more paint, and I can do this dab technique where I'm just dabbing the straight line across like I did initially. Or as you feel more comfortable with it, you can take it and swipe the brush from center outward to really make that edge a little bit tighter. That makes sense. Now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to approach it from this angle, because when you think about it, you always want that crispy edge of your brush on the hard edge part of the shape. Okay. So this is kind of what I was talking about. You can dab it across, or you can do I do both. Sometimes I'll dab the line, and sometimes I will put the brush down and just gently stroke it to, across the line. Sometimes it's hard to verbalize it, but I think that makes sense. Oh, all right. And so what you'll find too, again, because some of the color is going to want to soak into the wood, and that's fine. You can feel free to kind of just paint in a little more color just to deepen it slightly. And just like pretty much all acrylics, this color will darken a bit when it dries. So be aware of that. But as I go to my original, I've got one of the triangles done. Now we're going to move to this one since we have this color on our brush. And again, I'm going to start, in this case, I'm going to start from the center and paint outward. If you make a blip and you don't, like here, I kind of blipped out the side there, no big deal. I can just, adjust my line. And the nice thing too, this, since it's acrylic paint, it's very user-friendly. It's very correctable from the whole process. Okay, you can see here my drawn line was a little wonky, so I'm just going to decide, okay, I want my painted line to obviously be straighter, so I'm going to ignore that kind of wonky part of my drawn line and just straighten it up with the painted edge. Okay, so I think I derailed myself. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so it's very user-friendly. And you can always, as we're going, I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure I'll probably blip something that I didn't want to blip. But the nice thing is you can just, when it's, depending on how dark the color is, like if well, we'll see it as we go, but depending on, you have to consider how dark the color is and what color you need to paint over it. But sometimes you can do it when the color is still wet, and sometimes you just wait till it's touch dry and then you can paint over it. So again, just know that this is supposed to be freeing and fun. If it doesn't look exactly like you wanted, there are going to be multiple opportunities to adjust it. Okay. So since we've got our blue on this set, I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to pull another coaster. I apologize. I don't remember if this is the second one we did, but I'll give you a second to find it. It's the one with the wood at the top and the wood at the bottom. The wood slices, thin triangle top and smaller one at the bottom. There's one, we're going to put one large navy section in the bottom right. Okay.
So Marla, I have a question.
Yeah.
Everyone is working away, I presume. Question about, so now you're taking the same color and you're going to apply it on all the squares.
Correct.
Okay. And then is there any particular order of the colors, or it's just like, I know you started with the darker one. That has nothing to do with it. That's just preference.
I think that's, yeah, honestly, I think that was just preference. I'm trying because, there could be a logic to saying, well, I'm going to start with the lighter value and then go darker because that could make it easier to correct because it's
Yeah.
obviously easier if you need to correct a lighter value blip with a darker value color, but it's not so major, obviously, where I decided to start that way. A lot of times with acrylic painting, I start with the darker value colors first, just
Mhm.
because when you're looking at the value of a painting, which is the relative darkness or lightness of it, a lot of times your darker value colors are going to be a more dominant part of that structure. So I
Right.
like to block those in as I'm kind of creating the composition, because they're going to be a little more dominant in how the piece reads. So that's probably why I've started with the navy.
Mhm.
I remember I started with the navy in doing the samples too. So yeah,
Looks good.
could be
And
subconscious or I don't know.
yeah,
So.
could you just, when you show it up a little closer so that like so people could see that it's very easy with this paint, with the fluidity of
Yes.
this particular paint. It's got the low viscosity, so it moves quite easily.
Yeah, let me see if I can show. Okay, so you see in the light, can you see this little section here?
Yes, looks like,
Okay, so that is a little bit of the texture of the paint. What's interesting about the basics fluid is because it's already very fluid, but it will also level itself when this is not a lot of texture, but as it dries, that's going to level even flatter. Okay, so if you wanted to, or if I wanted to, I could come in and brush it smoother, but I've just noticed that slight texturing like that, it gets leveled. It's part of the formulation, I think, to help level some of the texturing, which is again what makes it really nice for this very graphic technique.
looks good.
Okay, so we're going to pick this one now. I'll give you a second to find it. This is the one with 2 wood slices. And obviously I did when I think I might have mentioned this, but as far as the composition goes, I did consider where I wanted the wood slices to be first, just because that is something I'm not painting. So that's what you design first, right? And so that's why I'm kind of picking them based on where the wood pieces are. But this is one that had 2, and we're going to paint the navy in this thin triangle on the bottom right. Sorry, let me switch that. I can come in a little closer if that. Uh-oh. I just remove my, sorry. There we go. There we go. Moving a little closer here. Okay. So still working with navy. I'm going to do this triangle and I'm going to line it up at the center and just paint downwards. This is another way you can do it too. If it's too long of a section and you don't feel comfortable just doing one straight swoop, then you can, and you don't really like the look of just the dabbing, like I was calling it, you can do these kind of short strokes where you're doing a small section and you just pick it up. So it's like you're doing a short little section at a time. Really, there's, it's what feels most comfortable to you. And then again, you can always adjust if it isn't quite what you hoped. The trickiest part is obviously when you come to the center part, because that is where everything comes to a point. And so one thing I will say is that when you have the color loaded on your brush, what I think I'm doing, sometimes I have to catch myself because I do it without even realizing I'm doing it, but I come to the center and I'm just using the very corner of the brush in the thinnest part of the point, if that makes sense. So just the corner, and then I allow the stroke to become fuller. Okay, because the idea is if you just attack it with the whole section of the brush, it can just be a little too much paint in that tiny space. So just think, use the teeniest corner of your brush to add the paint in that section. Now here's the case too, where I'll just tell you, I would always be a little more careful when I have the wood section adjacent to the color I'm painting, because obviously, you know, I'm not going to paint over wood. If I do it, I'm going to lose my wood tone. So, you know, that's the second case where it's not a big deal if you blip into it, but your solution there is you just make that color triangle bigger, because you're not going to be painting over it in any way. All right. So to me, this is one of the most fun parts, is getting that border painted. And then you get to kind of add some color and smooth it out. It's just really gratifying, as I think you'll see as we keep going. It just starts to appear. And it's very meditative too, because I did wood in the wrong spot there. It's meditative because you're just, once you've got the drawing, that was your thinking through the compositional design. Now it's the act of just repeat mixing and filling the color. So I messed up where I put my wood marker. Sorry about that. So I don't know if you copied me or you caught it and didn't do it, but my wood section is this thinner triangle here. Okay, and so my navy section is this triangle here that we're going to paint. And again, so I'm going to just see if I can show it better this time. So I'm just going to very lightly put the very corner of my brush into the tip of the triangle, get some color down, and then now I can use the whole brush to radiate outwards in a brush stroke. All right, turn it and go the opposite way. And just bisect the corner. And keep filling. Now, as you're working, you might get some on the edge. That's entirely up to you how you want to resolve that. I didn't worry about it too much because I anticipate, well, there's always ways to correct that. If you wanted a raw wood edge, you know, and you wanted to not have to worry about any paint sliding over the edge, you could tape the edges and then just remove the tape when you're done painting. If that's too fussy for you, then you don't have to do tape, but then you can always choose later to come back and paint the edge with a color of your choice. If you want to accent the navy or accent any on one of the colors, you could just very carefully paint the edge, or you could choose a neutral color like black or white or gray even. So you have a lot of choices on that, but that's how you can decide how you want to resolve the edges, or you could leave it and leave the painted edge. If you're going to frame these in a collection, it may not be very apparent, so you may not have to worry about the edge at all. All right, since this is a piece in front of us, let's decide. I think this color, this bright aqua green, was the next one that was visible in all of the pieces. So we're going to do that one next. And this is one where I just used the color directly out of the bottle because that is a lovely color, right? Don't need to do anything to it. This is one of my favorite colors in all of our ranges. You'll see that it's naturally opaque. You can see by this square here. So that makes it really nice to just get a very flat graphic look. This mixture, the navy mixture, even though it's very dark value, you can see it's slightly more transparent. So that lets some of the sheen of the wood show through. Compared to the aqua green, which is opaque, it's going to be a much more unified color surface. So you get that variety too as you're working with these, which I think is nice. So I'm putting out some of the bright aqua green. You can see you don't need a lot of color for these pieces. Just a little goes a long way. And even though the containers are 4 ounce, because it's so fluid, I think the bottles will, I mean, I haven't had them for, months and months and months, but the bottles will last a long time because you don't need a lot in each painting session, depending on how large you're working, of course, but because it's so fluid, it spreads really easily. Now I'm just taking a second to really clean my brush in water, try and get that darker value color out. One thing to mention too that I find so handy with painting is to have some type of container that has various wells in it, or you could have just 2 different water containers. So I'll do my rough wash on one side, And then I'll do, once I get that most of the color out, then I'll use the a second well to do the kind of last rinse. So I can tell, okay, I got most of that color out of the brush. And then I have paper towels handy. Just, for this process, I've been enjoying getting the excess water out, because these colors are so fluid, you don't need to add water to them for this technique. And so therefore I don't like to add water if I don't need to, because then you're getting all that true brilliant color, and you don't have to, you're not thinning it with water. Oh, look at that. I just love it. So paint it down, and you can see here, again, I'm talking, so I'm just kind of doing without thinking on some level. But in this case, I started on the edge and just kind of wiggled it out. So there's so many different ways that you can create that straight edge. And so now I'm coming to the center, and I just very gently, again, focused on the corner of my brush into the corner of that point of the triangle. Okay, I'll turn it around and kind of do the same thing. I'll load my brush with more color, and again, I'm going to really emphasize the corner of my brush in the corner of the shape.
Hi, Marla. I just want to give you a time check. We're at in my neck of the woods, it's 1:37, you're 12:37, and you are on your second color. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we will likely run over a bit, but we'll have at least one of these squares that will be completely done, so you can see how all the colors lay down.
Yes, and I will pick up the pace a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, it's one of those things, it's very forgiving, but because we chose to do multiples, even in our image, the extra image shots that we gave you some other inspirations to work with. So, work at your own pace. You could do this on your own time. You could just sit back and enjoy this, as Marla is doing. It's quite relaxing to watch it, because the paint does have a wonderful viscosity, and it just has a lovely flow over the paint, over the surface, no matter whether it's wood. And, we've been, obviously there's someone on our call today that is doing it on canvas.
Nice.
They're asking if someone said, did you gesso the surface before the painting? For a canvas, I think that someone was, why don't you just field that question for us, Marla, about the wood, because I believe you did not, but why don't you just confirm?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, when I started the project, I did try one with our clear gesso first, just because I was curious about it. And so here's the deal. Let me talk about wood first. So for the wood, I actually purposely chose not to do gesso, because I really liked how the basics fluid reacted with the wood. It's kind of like painting on paper, because it's slightly absorbent, and I just felt like it was a lovely combination. Now, if you're working on a pre-primed canvas, that's perfectly fine. It's going to set up, I mean, obviously you're going to have whatever color the canvas is instead of your wood, or, you may not have or you could do a faux wood grain if you wanted to, if you felt really ambitious. But I think when I did try the piece with, try the wood with gesso, what will happen is the basics fluid sits up on the surface, and I preferred how without the gesso it integrates into the wood. So the nice thing about acrylics is they are pH neutral when dry. So there's no acid that gets created in the drying process that could harm your wood or paper. With oils turn into something called linoleic acid, and that can etch the surface of your canvas or your paper. So that's why it's essential to use gesso or primer with oil paint. But with acrylics, they're pH neutral, and they adhere to just about any surface, even without a primer. So you don't absolutely have to use it for a piece like this. Now you might say, well, why use it at all? Well, the reason it can be a good idea for priming a surface for acrylics is if you want the paint to sit up on the surface and not soak into it. Like I said, in this case, I liked how the paint slightly soaks into the wood. If you don't like that effect, you could take these same wood coasters, and if you want the wood tone to show, you could put our clear gesso down first, and then let it dry. and then paint on top, and it'll be slightly different. It's not screamingly different, but it's just a different feel because the paint will sit up on the surface instead of slightly sinking in. So I hope that addresses it, that question. Let me know if it doesn't. So,
Looks like it'll be all good. That's a lot of information.
okay. All right, so we've got the bright aqua green, and let's, I think I have a couple with the red, and that's just kind of jumping out to me. And I think I just used this right out of the container as well. So we'll squeeze some of that out. Oh, and you can see in this case, I didn't shake it effectively. So let me do that. Something you will notice, if you don't give it that gentle shake, it can look a little kind of separated. So just give it a little bit of a shake and then squeeze it out, and they're perfectly good to go. Okay. So I've got my red section top right. I've cleaned my brush, and now I'm just going to keep going forward and paint. That is just also, I love this red with that bright aqua green. Oh man.
Yeah. It's funny you just mentioned that too, Marla, is that when we originally started this project or the concept, we were talking a lot about color theory and how you
That's
to
right.
create, you know, these color selections. So as you're painting, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, because it's
Yeah.
actually, they're very complementary colors, but they don't necessarily like combinations you wouldn't necessarily think about, but they all have like a very balanced look when you put them even next to each other. So, you know, having 2, 4, 6 of them, you know, this palette was fun to work with. So if you want to talk a little bit about that while you're painting,
Yeah, it's very
really
true.
pops.
Yeah,
This color looks
it
fantastic.
does, right?
It does.
It's very interesting. Yeah, so I think we kind of talked about like mid-century modern color, and you know, I don't know all the ins and outs of the quote rules of what that might be, but it's just kind of a vibe it gives, right? And I think this, in particular, these two colors, the red and the bright aqua green, just really harken back to the 50s, which is that era. You look at ads and stuff like that, and it does have a lot of those complementary colors, because this is just a version of two different. This is a type of green and this is a type of red, and those are complements, but they don't look like Christmas red and green, right? It's a slightly different red and green combo. So it has it gives you a different effect than that more traditional Kelly green versus a fire engine red, so to speak. So let me pause that while I think about the next color. So we got the red on those two. This one doesn't have any red, but it has pink. And so we can go ahead and mix our pink now. Since we have our red out, this is where you're going to break out your titanium white and give a little shake. And I'm going to squeeze some of that out. Probably about a dime size amount. And then I'll take my palette knife, and I'm just going to take some of this red and scoop it to the side. And I have some red on my knife, and that's okay. Then I'm going to take, so that, you know, just probably, I don't know, just a pea-sized amount of red and probably 2 pea-sized amounts of white. I'll probably have to add more, but I just kind of needed to start to kind of see what I have going there. Okay, so yeah, that's darker value than I want. So now I'm going to scoop that to the side. And because it's so dark value, I think I'm just going to take what's on my knife and a little more white and see if just what's on my knife is going to yield closer to what I want. And then now I'm going to take some of that mix that I just had and add it to that white. So that's something you can do too. Don't ever hesitate separating out your color mix. If you feel like it's gone too dark and you don't want to add a ton of white, just take some of it off to the side and then slowly add more white. And that way you won't feel like you're wasting a ton of white trying to get it light again. So that's pretty close, I think, to the pink I was looking for right here. So that's all that is the Cad Red medium with titanium white, probably I'd say, gosh, 1 part red to maybe 7 parts white, all said and done. And in this piece, it's going to be this triangle. I can already see my proportion was a little off here to match it, but that's okay. We're just going to go with it. And I'll start with the center and just paint outward. Now, this is a case where even though titanium white is an opaque color, it may allow some of that pencil line to show through. So this is a case where if you ended up painting over your pencil line, you may want to come and do a second coat when dry to cover it more fully if you need to. But again, that's just kind of your preference on if you really want to try and hide the pencil line. So back to color theory. So yeah, when you take a color like the red that we talked about the red and the green, and I've got my wonky pencil line that I can just decide how I want it to go here. But when you talk about the colors like the red and the green, another way to enhance that combo of red and green is to take another color and make either a tint or a shade of one of those two. So obviously pink is a tint of red. And so it, as you can see in this piece, even though there's no red, it is still going to, and this is a little lighter than I wanted, but we're just going to go with it. It'll darken down slightly when it dries, but pink and green also give that complementary color kind of electric vibe with each other. Okay, and then blue is is an analogous color to green. So even though this is a blue green and this is a navy blue, so it's kind of like they sing to each other. They don't bounce off each other like complementary colors will, but analogous colors sing to each other. It's almost like they harmonize, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll move that over. We'll see if we can get any more pink. That one doesn't have pink. Do this, okay, and then this one has pink. So this is one of the reds. It also has pink in it. And we have got pink in this section, in this top corner here. So we'll paint it in. So yeah, so this particular coaster has all four of the colors so far. So we have the analogous blue and the green that sing to each other, the complementary cad red and bright aqua green that really bounce off each other, and then your pink, which kind of partners with the red, but also bounces off of that bright aqua green. So you can see, I mean, we have only 6 colors for this process, but you get a really, what's the word? A lot of good color variety just from those 6 colors, and it doesn't look too chaotic, right? They play off each other, but it's not like you're just throwing every color in the book at it, right? Because that can look sometimes kind of amateurish if I love rainbows, but if you always end up with rainbows and that wasn't your goal, I think sometimes that happens when we get excited about color and we don't think about the subtle ways they can play off each other, when instead we just throw it all on there and paint. So thinking about those subtle color relationships can be really helpful. All right, so we've got pinks in. Let's go to this. And now I think a lot of them have this, or at least 2 of them have this color blue. So our blue mix at the top should still be wet. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit of this blue. It's very dark value, so we don't need a ton of it. And I'm just going to move it here near my white. Actually, that's probably too much. So I'm going to scoop it to the side because I want to mix it with my white right here. And then with that blue on my knife, I'm going to take some of my white. So you can see not a lot of it. And just mix that blue and white. Now that's pretty light, so I'm going to add some more of my navy blue. And you'll see I don't have a ton of paint, but because we don't need a lot, I'm just kind of doing a little visual blending, visual look at it there. I think that'll be enough for us. So that isn't quite exact. So I think what I'll do is add just a tiny bit more. And I'm going to take a little bit of a dab of my bright aqua green. Teeny, teeny, tiny dab. And I'm going to mix that in just to give it a slightly more turquoisey blue. So it's not strictly a tint of navy blue. It's just a slight nod to adding that bright aqua green. And even though this will darken down a bit, it's still cool, not quite dark value enough. So I'm going to add a little bit more of my navy blue mix. And I think that's about where I'm going to land. So in this case, this color mixing, it wasn't a pure tint of the navy blue. It also involved taking the analogous bright aqua green and adding a tiny bit of it. And so again, that's a way that you've got a tint of the navy blue, but now you're also connecting these three colors by adding this color that's a value in between the two. So again, it gives color variety, but you're not totally, it's not like I'm throwing every single color I have. I'm still using echoes of these two colors by creating this one. So it's echoes or kind of silhouettes. I don't know what the right exact word is, but you are honoring the two, these two analogous colors, but still adding a different one to add interest in between the two, which is this, what I just would call light blue, and I would type it out and talking about the class description. So this is just a light blue. I think naming is really hard because, you know, we do the best we can, right? But light blue is just only gives you so much information, right? But compared to these, this navy blue, it is definitely light. So that's kind of why I settled on that. But you can see, because there is white in it, it's going to be slightly more opaque than the navy blue is, but it's lighter value. So you might see some of the wood grain through it. Okay. All right, so move that on. Let's see, and this one has some of that blue. So we will, where is it? Oh yeah, I'm painting on the one I did. Sorry, there we go. So that is the blue section here. And just going to town. I hope if you're working with me that you're enjoying it. When I started doing this project, I just felt like I could just do tile after, like they kind of became tiles to me, right? I felt like I could do tile after tile because it was such a Zen process. So I'm rushing a little bit now just to make sure I can get a completed set of 4 to share, but hopefully you're not feeling stressed, because this is something too that you can always, if you want to see exactly how I made it and you're feeling a little behind, you can always rewatch the recording if you feel behind. Okay. Oh, one more section with the blue. So this is a case where I didn't have quite enough. So I'm going to mix a little bit more. This will be a little tricky, but I think I'm up for it. So I'm going to go back and mix some more of the blue. I'm going to take a dab of the navy and a dab of the white. And I'll do this a lot. If I'm trying to match a color, I'll end up mixing right on the color mix that I had, because then I can visually, then I can use my eyes to kind of blend it. And then I'll add the teeniest dab of bright aqua green to get that slightly more turquoise edge to it. And since this is slightly dry, this is the one I just painted. I can do a visual blend here, and it's pretty darn close. So I'm gonna roll with that mix and get it on my knife. And something too, when we're talking about color, I did try to kind of plan out what colors I wanted adjacent to each other, and I tried to mix it up. So sometimes, you know, the red would be next to the pink, or in this case, it was separated by the light blue. So if you're doing a bunch of tiles, that's something that you can really start to think through is how do you want the colors to play off of each other? So you've got these analogous and you've got these complementary colors and then tints of some of them. How do you want them to kind of have a conversation on the surface? Who speaks now, who sits where? Because our eye, depending on how they sit on the surface, that's how your eye will be carried through the piece, right? So here we're done with this one. I've got my 2 wooden sections, so I'm going to put this to the side. And let's see, make sure I have that. This one needs one. All right, so we have 2 that need some gold to it. Sorry, just like shuffling, shuffling cards here. This one goes with this one. All right. So I want to do this golden color. And let me show you. This was just the Cad Yellow Deep Hue out of the bottle. So I think I'm going to turn this to the side to make it a little easier to see it. And this will be nice because we don't have to mix this particular color. I'm going to clean my brush. And since I'm working with this lighter value yellow, I really want to make sure I get any extra color out of my brush. Dab it in, and then I'm going to paint this section. So the Cad Yellow is a semi-opaque color, so we'll see some of the wood grain. And you can see because I'm going fast, I blipped onto my navy blue a little bit. You can do a couple things. I can just use my finger and smear that off. But probably what I'll do to refine it later is when I have time, I will, after it's dry, I will just add some of the navy blue on top to kind of correct that. But this was a really fun color on the wood because you can see how even though it's rich and brilliant and intense, you can still see the wood grain through it. Hopefully you can see that in some areas. Okay. And then this piece has the darker yellow at the top. So we'll paint that in quickly. Now this section, this piece has a tint of the yellow. So now what we'll do, since we have our yellow out, I'll squeeze out some more of my titanium white and get my palette knife. Again, I'm going to start with a tiny dab, mix it into that white. So that's probably 1 part of the Cad Yellow Deep to 5 parts white to light. So I'll take another part, Cad Yellow Deep. So now it's 2 to 5. And I think just to keep going, I'm going to call that good. It's not quite exact, but it's going to darken down slightly when it dries. And I'm going to paint in this section. Now, here's a case where I know that I had a really wonky pencil line. So I'm going to just take a quick second, since this is already dry, I'm going to gently erase that because I've already got my painted line that I know I'm butting up to.
Right. So you'll be erasing the W's as you go along, because actually the colors next to each other, at first I was like, I thought you were going to be doing the opposite, but they look really quite different out of the bottle and then adding the white. I do have a question. You and I had discussed this prior about preserving these wooden coasters. If we then make them practical so that they could be used, what would you suggest in terms of preserving them, or putting a protective coat on them so they can be used, so they can be functional?
Yes, if you want to use them like coasters, Liquitex has a fantastic varnish. It's called Liquitex Professional Varnish. It comes in gloss, satin, or matte. I typically, for a coaster, I probably would choose a gloss, me personally, but you have your choice. But once you'd allow the piece to dry for at least 3 days, since it's such a thin coat, you can let it dry for 3 days, and then just work in a well-ventilated area and do at least 2 to 3 thin coats of the spray varnish on top. So, and you need to allow 24 hours between coats. So I hope that makes
Marla,
sense.
another question, because I
Yep.
notice we're getting some good questions as well. What would happen if you didn't finish it? Like if you didn't put the gloss on it? Because
Oh, for coasters?
yeah, for the coasters.
Yeah, so what'll happen
Gloss.
is you'll get some, the wood will still expand and contract, because the interesting thing about acrylics is even though they're water resistant when dry, they're not waterproof. So the water from the drink, or what, assuming if you have a wet drink, you know, if you have a hot drink, the issue, okay, I'll talk about wet drinks first. If it's a wet drink, you'll get a wet ring in it because the water will pass through the paint and the wood. If it's a hot drink, you know, if it's like a warm cup of coffee, the varnish is going to be better suited to have that light amount of heat on it than just the paint.
Right.
So those are the two reasons that you'd
Okay.
want to. Yeah.
Good answer. And then the last question was that someone who asked if they would be painting the sides of the coaster. And based on what I'm seeing, I would say no, but I guess that's a personal preference.
Yeah, that's definitely a personal preference. Shoot, I feel like I lost one of my tiles here, but yeah, that's definitely personal preference that, you know, you can choose to do or not choose depending on how you want to show it. Right. So, yeah, definitely personal preference. So I think the last section is this purple, and then this one has a kind of a deeper green, but what's crazy in all my shuffling around, oh no, I guess it's that one. Yeah, no, there it is. All right. So we have 2 colors to do, and then we will be done. And I would love to see what you have cooking. So
Right. Well, we're getting some good feedback as well. You know,
good.
about someone saying, do you need to have the sides or the varnish or whatnot?
Hmm.
Marla did recommend Liquitex range has 3 different types of varnish. We have gloss, matte, and satin. So that's also your preference. What you want to look, and someone if you're so ambitious to take on the project and paint the sides and make it so it's completely versatile, you can also do patterns on the other side if you'd like. You could do or
True.
solid, you know, a solid color or a variety of all these colors solid on the back side. I think would look kind of cool too, because
That would look cool.
yeah, because we were thinking it might, like I said, it's going to be multi-purpose. So either way, but yeah, we just wanted to, this is the good part about these classes. It's like, it's just meant for inspiration, and then the sky's the limit. You take it and you personalize it. So really good ideas. I like that you guys, the group is giving us some good ideas. I think
Yeah.
I
No,
might do the back side
yeah, I like that
myself.
idea.
I think solid using these colors, because I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I do like that idea a lot.
Yeah. And now,
And just
sorry, I was chatting while you were mixing the colors. So if you could reiterate the
sure.
combinations, the proportions
Yeah.
that we used.
This violet is a great chance when you're talking about color theory to mention something about color property. So the red that I chose for this project is more of a yellow bias red. The blue is kind of a true blue. Okay. For mixing a violet, because this is more of a yellow bias red, and all that means is it's not leaning towards violet, it's leaning towards orange. Okay. Because it's yellow bias, when I mix it with my blue, my violet is not going to be like a super clear, bright, high key violet. It's going to be slightly toned down or muted, which is really nice in conjunction with these other colors.
Right.
So I don't have to add anything to soften it. Okay. So what I did to mix this color, it was probably 5 parts white, the tiniest dab of blue, just the tip of my palette knife, literally, and then a tip of my palette knife of the red. And then I just kept going back and forth with tips of each. So I would probably say that it was 5 parts white and half part blue and half part red. So I know that's really kind of hard to say it, but there's it's just very, very little color, because you don't need a lot, because it's these colors are so powerful. You just don't need to add a lot to the white to get this kind of a gray violet. It's not, you know, it's like a grayish violet mix.
It is like a more muted, which is intentional for this palette, which we refer to as mid-century. But one thing that which you've been kind of consistent with across all your paintings, it's just pulling the color aside and then creating the mixtures as you go along.
Yes.
So you're more economical, so we don't waste that much paint. So it's always easier to just pull off, and then you could always add in the white if it's too dark.
Right.
right? Because I feel like
Right.
that's one of the things that we consistently do. We always break off. So like those proportions she's mentioning, it's your preference again. You want it to look a little, deeper. I guess you put in probably more of the blue.
Yeah, so yeah, and let me do this real quick now that I got that painted in. So it's that grayish violet. If I added a little more blue, because I don't think I have any more violets, so I think I can leave that. But if I add another dab of blue, and I should say that blue is actually slightly greenish. So you've got two colors that don't necessarily, like a green bias and a green bias blue and a yellow bias red are going to give you a more muted violet. So that tiny amount of blue pushed it more towards like a gray blue.
Yeah. Wow.
And if I wanted more red, so you just kind of keep, it's like turning the dial on a volume dial. Do I want it slightly bluish, slightly red? Do tiny dabs and that will adjust it for you. But yeah, this one I would say was that kind of like 5 parts or dabs of white to a half dab of blue and a half dab of red, just super tiny amount of each.
Right. Yeah, what a big difference when you did that. I know we ran a little over, and I hope that those of you are still with us. But if you're just following along and you're not painting, the class has been recorded. As Maria noted in the chat, you can view it in 24 to 48 hours on the Michaels site, where they have the classes and events. So you could put it in Michaels /classes and it'll take you to that portion of the website. And then this video will reside on the Michaels YouTube channel. So you could find it that way as well. And they keep a directory or a repository of all the classes. So you could look and see what the other classes Marla has presented to the group over the years, actually. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and we're really fortunate to have this time to share with you. We love to always see your artwork. Marla will flash the different hashtags, hashtag make art with Michaels, hashtag Michaels classes. Sometimes the Michaels team will pull an image that one of the artists that they like, that they've seen, and you could get posted on their UGC gallery. So it's kind of cool. And like I said, Marla loves engaging, as do we, with the artists, because we always draw so much inspiration from all of you. Like I said, there's very few original thoughts out there, so we all have to just keep improving and expounding on what we already know. So we picked up some good ideas today. So grateful to have everyone.
Exactly. And since I mixed one last color, I definitely want it to be available on the, available for you. What I did here, I took the primary blue, and there was some already on my palette, and I added it to the Cad Yellow Deep, which was still on the palette. And I would say that it was probably like a 1 part blue to 3 parts yellow. Okay, and this is a color that I would probably do a second coat. So it's going to look a little rough here because I want to smooth out that visual texture. But you can see how as I add a little more paint, that's going to smooth it out. So that gives you that kind of sap green that again is not a screaming kind of Kelly green. It's more of a softer green that again kind of harmonizes with the rest of the colors. So yeah, at this point I can put this aside, and the last step would be just to take your eraser and erase the W off the wood portion, and then you've got your set. The fun thing you can do is once you get a lot of your different color sets together, you could do some that used all of the same. Here, let me move this over. It's like a game. So
you might want to pull the camera back too a little bit, Marla, so they have better. Yeah. Perfect.
There we go. So like this is a theme of 4 where it was all the same colors, but different center points, different shapes. Of course, you can turn it however you want it to feel like you've got a good flow and design. If you were going to mount this, you can just play with it and have fun with it. You can add even more than just that. I think I had several, you know, so like in this case, I have 6 of that same color family. And then I think I had quite a few of, and some of the ones were the ones painted today, right? But yeah, you can see how it's just fun to play with. If you have any gamer type people who also are into art, to me, this is a perfect project because like it just makes you feel like it's games or tiles or things like that.
So. It really is. It looks great. And like I said, thank you so much for joining us. Basics Fluid. We really encourage you to try this new range from Liquitex. It's, as you can said, it has great fluidity, flow, vibrant colors, and yeah, it looks like a great art project. And we hope that you get some good feedback from you. If you'd be so kind to fill out the questionnaire that you're going to receive in a day or two. We always like to hear your feedback so we can improve and make these classes more engaging for all of our artists that are joining us. So
yes,
thanks for being with us. Marla, why don't you just wrap it up? And
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that it went a little long, but I would love to see if any of you painted some tiles, or if you're going to spend more time painting it, please tag me or you know, tag Michael's and so on. I would love to see what you came up with. So
all right, we do have some people that are showing. If you'd like to hold up your artwork, that would be awesome so that we could view it.
Oh, cool. I like the colors.
Nice. Love the different colors. Amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I like how you explored your Alana. That's beautiful. And so
yeah,
you are
lovely.
Look on canvas. That. Very cool.
Fantastic.
Paper. Yeah, so I like those ideas, like the ones on paper where you abutted them together. That's a neat idea too.
That is too. I love it.
Like a mosaic. That's really great.
It is really
awesome.
So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.